Okay, 3 influences of a man, and this one can get pretty deep, really. But just to kind of, we'll just kind of give a brief overview in it, because you can get pretty deep into to self and whatnot, aspects of self. Find what I need to pull up here. Okay, here we go. 3 influences of man. Okay, what he believes of himself, so what he believes himself to be, and what others project onto him, or what others say that he is, and then what he truly is. So in this teaching we encounter personal beliefs that the Druids hold over the psychology of humans, which helps us to understand their personality and motivation. That knowledge can be used to implement a personalized curriculum, as well as generally predict future behavior. This is basically the point of psychology. So at some point, modern psychology actually changed from the study of the mind and the study of behavior. And it's clear that the Druids saw this body-mind relationship also. So what a man thinks he is, well, that's, we concern ourselves with the idea of self-image, self-esteem, but self-image is really how you would see yourself. The esteem that you hold yourself in is based on how your self-image correlates to the larger world, but these are influenced by subjective perceptions of the self as projected and conditioned onto the self. So one could even liken your beliefs of yourself to the expectations that we place on the self and the beliefs and the programs. When we encounter others in the larger world, we become subject to their projections also. So now we have what we project on ourselves, and then we have what others project onto us. And they have certain standards, beliefs, expectations, projections on us, which will somehow influence us and their perceptions of us in this shared reality. And this doesn't necessarily mean we have to go along with the flow or whatever they say, but it does stand to reason that their attitudes towards us is going to affect how we acknowledge them or not, and so forth. But so when we come to associate with others, we learn to create mask personas, facades for different situations with different people, and these masks are a glamour and are not who we really are, or even who we would believe of ourselves. So there are personal beliefs, and the masks do influence us, but it's not really who we are, and therefore A plus B does not always have equivalence to C, and C minus B does not always result in A, and so forth. I mean, each of the keys is completely separate. So this is not just a straightforward thing. So the third key is not really visible. People spend their entire lives in the pursuit of self-discovery and self-knowledge and self-honesty and self-forgiveness and all this stuff that has been kind of come up in the last couple decades. And the truth of the matter is that every living being, is just understand that. Focus on the self, and then everything else will come. And really, to understand the influence of man is to be free of those restrictions. While we're on the subject of Druidic psychology, there's another triad, the 3 internalized aspects avoided by the wise. And these would be fearing the inevitable, expecting the impossible, and grieving the irretrievable. So, Druid psychologists realized that most of the stresses and disorders and issues and problems all came from within. They watched as people worked themselves up over an objectively simple or non-existent problem, then overcomplicate that problem so that there were more visible issues to be mangled with, and then would relate to my hypothesis on the smoking habit related to in an earlier segment. But instead of managing the stress itself, the patient will focus on the habit as the source of the stress, and because it's something more physical and more tangible and more visible to be managed. And the true stresses or issues that are causing the habit are never dealt with because the person is not looking to solve the right equation. So, your premises or reasoning is false, then the conclusion or outcome is going to be not valid either way. So the act of minimizing stress and suffering is synchronous with Buddhist teachings. The triad basically informs us not to stress over what is going to happen regardless, not to expect what can never be, not to fret over something that has happened, cannot be changed. The Druid learns to change what can be changed and accept what cannot be changed. Very simple. In terms of health problems, physical, psychological, it would seem that our society as a whole minimizes the effect that stress has, and when in fact it plays a very large part in our lives, in our physical condition and mental and all other conditions. Stress is caused very often even just by change. Not necessarily change, but just change of environments, even ones that seem beneficial. I mean, moving from one room to another causes change, albeit minor on the body and mind, but negative stresses can be defined as those that are excessively taxing on the body. And those would be the ones to avoid then. It seems easy, of course, for someone like me over a virtual wireless connection to tell you, avoid stress, or for your friend to tell you not to worry about something. Obviously, we aren't you, and the ego says that we could never understand, and then there's this acknowledgement of the I, not I, that separates us from everyone. And they see things through different glasses, and since they're not our glasses, it's easy to discount the perceptions. So they may see something that's valid or whatnot, but when we try to minimize our stress, we get defensive, because it should come from within, and if it's not something we haven't recognized for ourselves, it's frustrating for someone else to call us on our own bullshit. So the best way I can see to avoid stress is to discover what sequences or patterns result in high stress levels or stressful situations, and then avoid those behavioral sequences altogether. I mean, it seems common sense that an organism would discontinue a behavior that results in negative consequences, but that doesn't seem always to be the case with the human condition. Compulsive behavior can be executed at the root to be free of a vicious cycle and just the stresses that result from such behaviors. So, again, fearing the inevitable, expecting the impossible, grieving the irretrievable, these are all the internalized aspects to be avoided by the wise.